Yo everybody, it's me, everyone's friend, me and Buster Green, and I guess I'm just doing Looney Tunes videos every day this week to level up my channel, so please subscribe because I just passed 2,500 subscribers and that's a new record for me. Also, don't get used to me talking about Looney Tunes all the time because my channel is mostly supposed to be me complaining about movies or anime until I finish my own movies or anime. So hey, have you watched my anime? It's pretty cool. Alright, so today's question, I got a lot of people asking me if enough people see the day the earth blew up and that revives Coyote V Acme, well, what else can we revive? So I'm going to try to form this in a bit of an itemized list, and as apparently there's a wish list that everyone has, but everything on this list is a little bit complicated and we're going to talk about why that is. So yeah, today we're going to talk about the big four of the deleted WB movies from the Zaslav regime: Coyote V Acme, Bye Bye Bunny, Scoob Holiday Haunt, and lastly Batgirl, asking the big question, what other Warner Lost media can actually be saved? So yeah, once again, if you haven't been following the video series I've been doing this week, so first, WB tried to bury Day the Earth Blew Up and gave it no advertising budget, and me and some other pissed up YouTubers backed up the movie, and against all odds, it actually did really well. This gave Ketchup Entertainment, the distributor of Day the Earth Blew Up, enough leverage against WB that it seems completely possible that WB is going to change their tune and surrender them Coyote V Acme, the legendary Dream Coyote movie that's been a total shit show in terms of its production history. And the fact that by all accounts, everyone said this was a great movie, and numerous A-list Hollywood celebrities and even members of Congress have been personally offended and outraged by WB's decision to shelve the movie for no logical reason. So anyway, I'm going to get into the deep end about the movie tax write-off deletion law. So yeah, this is an ancient law dating back to the creation of Hollywood in the mid-20s, and it pretty much says that if a movie was an absolute complete financial flop and disaster for all parties involved, you could destroy that movie, and in 1920s terms, that meant literally lighting the film reel of the movie on fire in the presence of an IRS tax agent who would confirm that the movie was destroyed, and then after the fact, the tax agent would award you a coupon stipend for the film's destruction and your wasted labor and effort. Now, since then, though, the law has barely been used and put into effect, although it did famously destroy one of my favorite childhood cartoons, Megas XLR, despite numerous people claiming and begging WB to return that series to the public. It never was released, and of course things changed dramatically when David Zaslav took over WB and used the law at borderline abusive levels to wipe pretty much dozens of projects and series and movies out of the public record just to bloat his already bloated CEO paycheck. Anyway, back to Coyote V Acme. So there was a rumor that Coyote V Acme was deleted for a tax write-off, but I think based on what's going down this week, I'm going to make a big call right now and say that this was just a rumor and this was likely never true, because I don't think we'd be seeing what we're seeing now if this was true. Now, WB did publicly originally plan to delete the movie for a tax write-off, but there was such open criticism and such a backlash against that, but I don't think they ever actually went through with that. And then because nothing ever happened with the movie, Doomers kind of just came to the conclusion that Coyote was written down for a tax write-off, but there was actually no direct evidence that it was written for a tax write-off. So I'm just making a call based on what I'm seeing that since the movie is actually coming out, I don't think it was actually deleted for a tax write-off. I think they just shelved it and then forgot about it because they're idiots. Now, I could be wrong, though. There is one other possibility where I'm wrong, and the other possibility is that the movie was deleted for a tax write-off, and it's then possible that maybe something changed. Maybe it's possible that with the current Trump-Elon chaos in Washington, possibly something changed at the IRS. Maybe the tax deletion rule itself changed, and maybe they changed it that even if it was deleted for a tax write-off, that tax write-off could be undone by just repaying the IRS the money. I think that's possible. Or potentially they just release the movie anyway because Trump's in charge, nothing fucking matters, no one's watching the fucking chickens anymore, and everything is a grift and a farce, and who the fuck cares? Now, we do know from the Deadline article that Coyote V Acme's sales price to catch up is $50 million, and this seems like it might be the average, but it could also be a cap when you consider that it seems like every article about WB deleting movies for tax write-offs says that they on average got $30 million back. And also, I want to mention that Scoob Holiday Haunt only had a budget of $40 million. So if they got $30 million back for that, then WB only lost $10 million in shelving it and not selling it or showing it ever. Batgirl, on the other hand, though, that was a complete disaster. Its budget had already ballooned up to $90 million, so if they only got $30 million back on that, then they lost 2/3 of its budget by just sitting on it. So anyway, let's talk about some of these projects and how likely it is that they could be revived if Day the Earth Blew Up keeps making money and people keep being angry about WB being stupid with their properties. So first up is Bye Bye Bunny. I didn't want to talk about Bye Bye Bunny, but there's a lot of Looney Tunes fans who are like demanding I do it, and yeah. Bye Bye Bunny is one of the most popular projects because it's the deleted Bugs Bunny movie, and everyone is vibing on the Looney Tunes right now, so yeah, let's talk about Bugs Bunny and Bye Bye Bunny. Unfortunately, the thing of it is, Bye Bye Bunny wasn't like any of these other movies because it was canceled in its animatic stage of animation production, which means even though the script was done, the overall movie was only about 30% done. The dialogue was timed out, but no actual dialogue was recorded by celebrities or actors. The storyboards were laid down, but no final animation or voice work was actually done. So that puts Bye Bye Bunny in a really weird spot. Despite that all, though, because it's in a weird spot, I want to say it's got a snowball's chance in hell. I'm going to say its chances of revival are a very low 30%. As to technically revive it, you basically need to just make a whole new production with it. Now, you could technically just take this complete animatic from where it currently stands and go to work on it, but you need to hire new animators, so it would be a little bit weird. I do think Bye Bye Bunny is more possible to create than some of these other movies, because it was canceled in a state of pre-production, and because it was so far from finished, I don't think it was deleted for a tax write-off. I think it was just canceled in an early phase of its production. But then, because it was canceled, it would be otherwise a gargantuan pull to finish the film from where it's at. It would definitely require WB cooperating and being open to finishing it, as Ketchup or another distributor would not have animators or an animation studio to finish it themselves if the animatic was just bought as it is. So yeah, Bye Bye Bunny, probably not happening, but I'll say if someone was really serious about it, it's got a 30% chance of revival because the animatic's there. You would just have to finish it from there. But it does have less red tape than the other movies, so it's complicated. The other thing is that since it's unfinished, you don't really go out of your way to buy an unfinished movie, but I guess people buy scripts, so it's just like more like a script that's actually a little bit more put together. So who the hell knows? I don't think Bye Bye Bunny is happening, but if it did happen, I guess I wouldn't be surprised. Now, moving on, let's talk about Scoob 2 Holiday Haunt. I'm actually pleasantly surprised to say that this is probably the one that's got the best chance right now. I'll say it's the star of this video, and if everyone does get Coyote V Acme, our next major focus to be beating up WB to get them to hand over Scoob 2 Holiday Haunt. So Scoob 2 is a complicated movie. Quick backstory here if you didn't see Scoob 1. Scoob 1 was this movie that launched in the pandemic in the midst of HBO Max's initial rollout. It did not get a good theatrical release because it came out in the middle of COVID. It was like the first fully CGI Scooby-Doo movie, and Scoob 2 Holiday Haunt was going to be this low-budget interquel. Now, I can't even recommend Scoob to you. I thought it was a pretty weak Scooby-Doo film overall, and it was less about Scooby-Doo than it was actually about starring a Hanna-Barbera cinematic universe. But I don't think that's a really good idea because most 90% of Hanna-Barbera characters are just like talking bears and cats and whatever. I just don't think it's really possible to establish a cinematic universe around Hanna-Barbera characters. At least definitely not one where the center stone are the Scooby-Doo kids, even though I feel the logic there in that Scooby-Doo is usually the most popular Hanna-Barbera property. But yeah, the film sets up Scooby-Doo and then it leaps from there to set up Blue Falcon and Dick Dastardly. And it was pretty light on the overall Scooby-Doo content because it was actually just like a fake MCU-style movie to actually set up Blue Falcon to be like the superhero lead of this Hanna-Barbera cinematic universe. Although, ironically, after this movie failed, a few years later, Jellystone came out and actually did do the Hanna-Barbera cinematic universe concept justice just by focusing it all on one stupid town where everyone was crazy. So anyway, yeah, that brings us to Scoob Holiday Haunt, this complicated little movie sequel, because on the one hand, it was definitely your run-of-the-mill straight-to-DVD sequel. A lot of corners were cut on this movie. Animation-wise, it was meant to be especially cheap because it was just recycling animations and models from the kids section at the start of Scoob. But despite that, I actually do have some amount of faith that this film could have been better than Scoob 1 because it was written by Batman the Animated Series scribe Paul Dini, and Dini is like a man who oozes with quality, and everything he makes is pretty much gold. Dini has also been one of the most vocal voices in Hollywood about them finally releasing the movie. Now that Coyote's gotten its chance for revival, Dini is beating down the doors saying that Scoob could get revived too, and this is our chance to seize on it. So yeah, if you're a Scooby-Doo fan and you just want to see this random Christmas movie, theoretically, Ketchup could buy Scoob Holiday Haunt 2 and release it next Christmas, and we'd all be happy. Like if Scoob Holiday Haunt can get the same deal Coyote gets where they sell it to Ketchup for $50 million, I think that would be great. WB would get back all the money they used to sell it for taxes, recoup what they lost, and they'd still come out of the deal with about $10 million profit. I should also mention that the film apparently stars character actor Andre Braugher as Chef Dave, a wise elder black chef character who gives the Scooby-Doo kids advice about how to live their lives. Wait, why does that sound so goddamn familiar? Anyway, I bring this up because it's actually a sad story. Andre Braugher died about a year after recording this role, so if this movie ever comes out, it's his last performance. God damn, that's fucking insulting. His last performance was deleted for a tax write-off. Now, one other tangent about this film that I think is odd and worth mentioning is that the film was sold for a tax write-off to the IRS when Zaslav originally took control of WB. But what's funny there is the film was actually sold to the IRS when it was only 90% finished, and the IRS actually forced WB to finish it. So there was actually a group of very sad people and animators who worked on this movie for months trying to finish that last 10%, knowing entirely well that the film would probably never be released and never see the light of day, which is probably one of the worst jobs I can ever imagine having as a freelance animator. But anyway, that happened, and that was kind of fucked. Now, for all these reasons, I'm going to optimistically say Scoob has a 50-50 chance of getting revived by Ketchup Entertainment. It's just sitting there done, just like Coyote V Acme was, and I optimistically want to say that that chance might be even better if Day the Earth Blew Up and Coyote V Acme keep handing Ketchup more wins and more leverage. So once again, I gotta tell you guys, go see Day the Earth Blew Up right now. Day the Earth has to beat Snow White so we can get Coyote V Acme. But yeah, Scoob 2 was such a cheap movie that I don't even know why Zaslav wrote it off in the first place. Not releasing it was just like a show of absolute unconfidence in like the animation department, and fuck him for that. Alright, so now I'm gonna stick around and talk about two DC movies that are probably not ever coming out ever. Let's first talk about Batgirl because someone asked me to talk about it. I'm honestly very certain Batgirl is not coming back. Batgirl is a much pricier movie to revive than any of these animated movies we're talking about. Like, it would actually be cheaper to just shoot a brand new Batgirl movie, maybe even one with the same story and script but different actors. But by all accounts, Batgirl was this dumpster fire of a movie that David Zaslav personally hated and did everything in his power to destroy. There are various people all throughout the hierarchy at WB who second that opinion and claim that the movie was just beyond saving and not worth the effort. At best, it could be released as like a straight-to-streaming CW TV quality film, but you definitely would have had to spend hundreds of millions of dollars to make it any kind of a cinematic powerhouse, and considering how bad WB has been at making DC movies at this time in history, I really don't think we lost anything by losing Batgirl. Although I kind of personally wish they had gone through with making that stupid Wonder Twins movie, because I think that would have been hilarious. But anyway, the fact that this film was rendered unusable by the tax write-off is also a big shame, because I heard that both Michael Keaton and Brendan Fraser were the silver linings here, doing impressively good jobs acting as Batman and Firefly in this movie respectively. Now, I kind of personally think it would be cool if the footage of those characters could be extracted and put into another movie, but unfortunately that's not how this works. If you really wanted, you'd unfortunately have to just cast them again and shoot new footage because of how draconian this tax write-off destruction law is, that all the footage from this movie can never be used or seen again. I am going to say that the final forecast for reviving Batgirl is probably a 10%, but it's more likely that if Batgirl is revived, it would just be a different Batgirl movie with a different cast that maybe might do some of the same things as this one. If you want this specific Batgirl movie from 2022, that's never going to happen. I just think that thing is dead forever, and God himself could not bring it back to life. Lastly, and this is even more of a stupid tangent that I didn't want to get into, but people keep asking me, do I think WB could ever revive Justice League Snyder Cut Part 2 and 3 and finish out that whole like evil Superman story they were setting up in like the last two movies? Okay, so this is definitely never going to happen, at least not as it stands. The current regime at WB and Snyder have a lot of bad blood. Snyder feels betrayed by them, and I don't think they like him much either. I don't want to say this movie is never going to happen. There are a few very insane, very convoluted paths that could bring us back to it. The most insane path is just if the DCU reboot by James Gunn would completely fail, that would probably put WB in a really tricky spot. I think I'm going to like the James Gunn Superman. I always like James Gunn movies, but I don't know if everyone's going to like it. And it also could fail because, like, you know, superhero fatigue is a thing nowadays, and it kind of looks weird to me that they're setting up a Superman in a DC universe that seemingly already has too many superheroes living in it. Unless Gunn is pulling the same trick he pulled in Suicide Squad, where half these heroes, like, die and are just there to be cannon fodder. I've heard that if James Gunn's Superman movie fails, the worst case scenario after that is WB might actually sell DC, and I want to say if he does that, as it currently stands, the two companies most likely to buy DC from WB would be either Universal or Netflix, who both have eyes on it. If Netflix were to buy them, Snyder works at Netflix. He still has several contract movies with Netflix. We could get Justice League 2 out of Netflix, but I kind of doubt it. Although it's also possible that WB could just like sell the rights to the Justice League to Netflix and they could produce it there as a Netflix straight to Netflix original. I don't think this would actually happen, but I can't say it's impossible either. A more sunny prospect of the future is maybe if the Superman movie for WB does good at some point. WB has a lot of weird like irons in the fireplace. They're still making the Matt Reeves Batman series, even though supposedly James Gunn is also going to start up his own Batman continuity. So it's possible that if WB just keeps on rolling through money, maybe some aspects of the Snyderverse could coincidentally come back into play miraculously. There's even a chance that if DC was just rolling in money, they could greenlight the movie just for fun, but that's kind of insane. I don't think that's ever going to happen. I think the odds of that happening are as possible as them actually making Tobey Maguire Spider-Man 4. I'm going to overall say the chances of this happening are also likely a big 0%, especially as the actors keep getting older and less relevant and less in shape, and Ezra Miller has seemingly fully destroyed himself by now, and Ben Affleck is also kind of like washed up right now. I'll say there's a silver lining here that if people do keep annoying WB about it, best case scenario, they might make it as a comic, like they just made Batman 1989 as a comic and like played out like some sequels to that. So maybe you'll get it as a comic. I think that's the best you can hope for. And I think that's everything I have to say about Warner Brothers and Lost Media currently. But yeah, otherwise, just keep going to see Day the Earth Blew Up, because going to see Day the Earth Blew Up, every dollar it earns is a big middle finger in the face of David Zaslav, who had no confidence in this movie and sold it to ketchup. And let's make it win on the second week, especially because like all the movies this week kind of suck. And yeah, hopefully we are comfortably seeing watching Coyote V Acme soon, and that's a big win for everybody. All right, I'm you, Buster Green. Subscribe. Thank you. Later.